Katarina Gugurl is a landscape designer and graduate of the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences, Vienna. She wrote her dissertation addressing the controversy between agricultural use and political influence affecting the cultural landscape of the Warschau. She has exhausted the basic research funding and now has to look to other countries for financing.
If all goes well, I know what my future holds for the next 3 years. I will be either in the Netherlands or the Solomon Islands. Kazakhstan is an intermediate. I'm glad I'm on my own and don't have to uproot anyone else. One of my postdoctorate colleagues and his wife are very happy at the moment. For the first time, they only live 270 kilometers apart, almost beside each other.
The University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences, Vienna, is chronically underfunded. Third-party financing funds almost every other young scientist. Marianne Penke is a professor at the Institute for Sustainable Economic Development.
On projects with third-party financing, we need to maximize the profit to get as much funding as possible. Is this our task set by the taxpayer and society? Even when our people here have to work under chronically underfunded conditions, hanging on from contract to contract, and eventually have to give up and leave the university because the budget is not available to put them on a fixed income.
Gottfried Schatz, who was born in the Steiermark, was a biochemistry professor at elite universities in the USA and Switzerland. As an experienced research manager, he looks at Austria's development with worry.
Today, we offer young researchers a bleak future that is neither fair nor transparent, nor offers sensible planning.
The Viennese molecular biologist René Schröder is professor at the Department for Biochemistry at the Max Perutz Laboratory. As a protest against the undermining through the Austrian Association of Graduates and the miserable opportunities for young researchers, she left the Academy of Sciences last year.
Wo es nicht passt momentan, ist die Situation für die Jungen.
At the moment, the situation for our young people is really bad.
Dinge zu tun, hatten das Gefühl, es wird immer besser. Es entwickelt sich in eine richtige Richtung.
We had been able to do good work under bad conditions.
Sehr viele, die nachdrängen. Und so ist das System wirklich brutal geworden. Dieser starke Selektionsdruck.
We need to establish a dismissal policy.
Aber die Universitäten haben nicht den Mut, Leuten sozusagen
It is terrible for young people who work very hard but have no hope of proper employment, while next to them are two others in permanent employment who don't do any useful work.
Is it possible for universities to keep being breeding places of innovative ideas under the pressure of industry that answers only to the demands of society?
It is not only to find new knowledge, but it is also to find new ignorance, to discover something of whose existence we had no idea. In every generation, we have gifted people. People who look at something everyone sees, but have the ability to come up with a brand new thought about it. We can't create or plan such people, but we have the ability to destroy them. We can hamper them and destroy them. Talent is something very vulnerable. The idea that talented people will always rise to the top is complete nonsense.
In contrast, Maria Gugging looks like paradise. The federal government and the province of Lower Austria have offered 1.4 billion euros to the Institute of Science and Technology, IST. Additional large funding contributions come from the EU coffers. Soon, 1,000 researchers will work here doing fundamental research projects.
We try to recruit the best of the best. When we commit ourselves and offer an assistant professorship, we know that we can extend it to a full professorship. This doesn't mean at all that he or she can be lazy, just the opposite. There is an evaluation process in place, usually after about 5 years. If the candidate has done some publishing in the top journals, if he was able to establish himself in the field worldwide, a full professorship is offered at the end of the assistant professorship.
The IST doesn't recruit from the regular student pool, but rather from scientists and doctorate students. The language on campus is English.
But then it flows in, but it remains at a contact point eventually.
The German cell researcher Carl Philipp Heisenberg is leading one of the 28 research groups working at the moment.
We don't know what we will be doing in 5 or 10 years. In research, we usually make a discovery, which in turn leads to certain hypotheses. We then try to determine through experiments if they are true. Mostly, the hypotheses are not true, or only partially true. From these uncertainties, we develop new hypotheses. It is totally wrong to judge our work by the fact we produce a new medication in the end. Here, we strictly do fundamental research, which is the basis of all applied research.
Carl Philipp Heisenberg comes from a science dynasty. His grandfather, Werner Heisenberg, was the founder of quantum mechanics.
This work comes with the complications of having to move around a fair bit, and the income is quite low. This certainly has an effect on family life. What I learned from my family is that the work of a scientist is accepted, and this was already a big step.
Heisenberg's group is doing research on zebrafish, an animal mostly used in development biology and genetics. These fish have the advantage that their embryos develop entirely outside the mother's body and are transparent. The research on these animals is supposed to lead to a wider knowledge of the biological cell development, which can then be compared internationally.
We are less interested in determining the fate of cells, but rather how cells interact with each other to form a specific organism of a certain shape. In other words, we look at the formation of shapes.
At IST, scientists have the luxury of not having to worry about teaching commitments or any outside interference. They are able to concentrate entirely on their research.
My interest doesn't lie in applied research, but rather in fundamental research. One has the freedom to research whatever triggers one's scientific curiosity. It doesn't depend on market demands or trends or how it could be used or promoted.
We are not able to predict if the outcome will include any profitable patents, or maybe even a Nobel Prize.
We have a long way to go. Up to now, we have not discovered anything usable. But at the moment, we are only working on setting up IST itself. We are trying to build an institute that in the future will hopefully bring forth significant patents that eventually finance the research.
Away from this elite university, everyday life still depends on constant fundraising to battle the money shortages.